Hey everybody, we're Workforce Gaming. I'm Doug, along with Brad.
Hello.
And as a sort of pseudo follow-up on our impressions of the beta, Brad immediately pre-ordered Dragon Ball Fighterz and has been
Hell
playing
yes.
Fighters, I think, pretty much nonstop the past weekend.
Yep.
So Brad, I played we both played the bait finished game essentially. I don't know what that demo. We played the demo.
That was pretty much a finished game with the features blacked off, yes.
So is it still as awesome as that demo was? I don't want to sound so smug.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, this game is incredible. Having just recently played Injustice 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom and Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, I don't know, I've been playing a lot of fighting games recently. This is hands down my favorite out of those.
Really?
Oh yeah, no question about it. I have I have very weird nitpicky things about all of those,
Yeah.
and this game I have a couple things I don't care for, but it's just so much more fun than all of those.
Okay.
I think there are other games that do some of the feature aspects of fighting games better, like Injustice 2 obviously has a better story mode, but just the pure sitting down and fighting and the pure gameplay of this is just way too much fun. Just because it does give you that feeling of I'm actually playing a Dragon Ball Z fight. More so than Injustice gives you that feeling of this is a superhero fight, or Marvel vs. Capcom gives you that feeling. This feels like this is a fight taken straight out of the show and
Hmm.
put on my TV and letting me control it.
That's kind of, actually is kind of interesting. I mean, I kind of got that feeling too, but I sort of realized like a lot of fighters don't really have that feeling. It is like especially in Justice, I think, and at NetherRealm Studio game, it doesn't really feel like superheroes fighting. It doesn't feel like the best martial artists in the world fighting each other. It feels like, like a fighting
Yeah,
game. While this one actually feels like Dragon Ball Z.
yeah, and I think that's the thing that this game nails more than anything else. And just because I haven't watched any Dragon Ball since like a long time ago, busted out some old DVDs I found in a box in my basement and started watching it. And even watching it, like I'm just like, oh yeah, I can do that in this game. I can. Oh yeah, that's a quarter circle then a circle, and I did that in the game. And it gives you that feeling so perfectly of the show, and even just the way the characters interact and the lines and the dialogue and just the obviously the look plays a huge part in that because it does
Hmm.
look just like the anime, and the feeling you get and just seeing the way the moves play out and seeing how characters react to them, just everything about it feels so perfect and feels so much like watching an episode of Dragon Ball that it's completely different and completely separate from those other fighting games. And I don't think that we're the people to have the complexity talk of how this is more or less complex and better combos and da 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 da.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm I love fighting games, but I could care less about that stuff. I'm much more just like I play this because it's fun,
Yeah.
and the amount of fun I have playing this trumps every other fighting game.
That's really funny because I know that I guess you're like a casual fighting game fan, but you do play like every fighting game that comes out. I feel like you actually probably play fighting games like 99% of people play fighting games that just like fighting games. Like you'll buy a fighting game, like it, play it, finish it, not try to get to tournament level, but just enjoy it and
Yeah.
then put it
Oh
away.
yeah. I have no qualms about going online and getting my ass kicked and going, this is stupid, and then just going and playing through arcade mode one more time.
Yeah.
That's most of my fighting games is like, oh yeah, I played that story. I'm gonna go online. Oh nope. That guy just perfected me after yep, okay, well I guess let's go back to single player. And I think that is the way that most people do play fighting games. Obviously there's that chunk of people who are sitting there memorizing combos and everything, but that's not the fun to me. The fun is just fighting. And I think this game nails that perfectly. And if you're a person who doesn't necessarily play fighting games, this is a game designed for you. And this is a game designed for people in my headspace where it's like, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and memorize a 40 string long combo. That option is there, and if you go to the practice, they have some of that stuff where it's like, here's the like crazy super combos you can do
Yeah.
if you want to. But if I was going to introduce somebody who'd never touched a fighting game to a fighting game, this is hands down the one you give them because it's a very simple button inputs. The characters all play similar. Now, granted, there is some depth to differences between them and all of that kind of more complex stuff you can get into just in the way their moves function and timing and cancels and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's every character has the same basic move set. And
Mhm.
I think that opens it up a lot more to being just a, hey, I'm going to sit down and have some fun with this, versus something like a Street Fighter where if I'm going to play Ken or I'm going to play M. Bison, I have to learn two completely different sets of control style, completely different ideas of what I'm doing with the character.
Yeah. I guess you like that where that there's not a lot of there's a lot of similarity between the characters, but do you feel like I don't know how long you play fighting games for, like maybe just like play for the year and then you kind of drop it after that, but like do you feel it's going to affect the longevity of it because they're so similar to, like in Europe, like from your perspective of playing it, not like I'm not saying the community as a whole because they're going to play regardless of what we do.
Oh yeah, for sure, but I know for me, like even going back to other games, I think most people do this. You pick your character or two that you're good with anyway, and you stick with them. And then, if you're just messing around with somebody else or whatever, like me and my wife are playing one, I'll just pick random characters just to kind of mess with them. But I think just like any other fighting game, I don't think that necessarily affects it, because if you're playing online, you probably have 1 to 4 characters that you're playing with the vast majority of the time, and you're going to know those characters' movesets anyway. I think if anything, this opens it up more to going like, you know what? I've been playing Goku for a really long time. Let me try out Vegeta. Let me see if those moves are a little bit different. Let me see just the little minute differences between them, because there are definitely some differences. So the Saiyan characters all play very, very similar. Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, they all play fairly similar. And then some of the more diverse characters, your Friezas, your Cells, they have their own different kind of move sets as well that are, again, input wise are similar, but just in terms of what they're actually doing and in terms of the way they interact with other characters and in terms of how those moves affect characters and what those moves do are vastly different. So there's enough differences in the way the moves function, because that part's not any dissimilar to another fighting game where you've got your characters who are more close range, your distance characters, those types of things. Those are all still there. It's just the input I'm doing with the controller is the same.
That kind of actually reminds me weirdly of Smash. That's why I like Smash a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a very good comparison, because Smash, you can kind of once you've got the basics, you can adjust to any character, and that's what this feels like. Where it's not necessarily a Street Fighter where you have to individually learn every character. You need to know the basics really well, and then really master the specifics of that character.
Yeah, I think the thing I really liked about the demo was that I think that it's kind of cool that like I feel like in Street Fighter and Tekken and pretty much any other fighting game, in order to like even like look cool, it's hard to pull off. While just the basic combos in this, like sort of the introductory phase, you can already start looking cool and then only go cooler from there, as opposed to like just flailing. Because like they made the flailing real tight in this, from what I can tell, and then like the extra on top of that part is gonna make you look super super cool. But like I think everybody at least starts feeling cool, and I like what you're saying where you can sort of like branch out from there. It feels much more friendly and like branching out, as opposed to like you're basically stuck learning this character because it's not going to apply to anything else.
Yeah, I put 6 hours into Bison, and now I'm going to try and play Ken, and oh wait, nope, starting from square one.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I really do like this game, is just the pure fighting of it is just great. The part that it does stumble a bit is I think the modes that it has aren't necessarily super well done.
Yeah.
Obviously it's got your arcade ladders, which are fine, and those are, every fighting game I think essentially has that in some form or another, and nothing really to talk about there. The story mode I think is what was a bit of a letdown for me, and I think 3 or 4 years ago it would have been amazing.
Okay.
But when you compare it to having just played through Injustice 2, even the pile of crap that was Marvel vs. Capcom story, it just feels much smaller. It feels much more, because it's basically the story is, and it's, I don't particularly like the way it works. So the villain in this is Android 21, who's an original character, works really well, and I really like the way that she plays into the story. But the basic story is there's these mysterious waves that are hampering everybody's power, and you as the player are some way or another linked with Goku to start out with. And Goku can only fight when you, the player inside of him, is taking control of his body.
God damn it.
And as you go through the story, you find more characters, and Bulma is able to link you together with Goku, so your player spirit can travel between every different character in the Dragon Ball universe to return their power to a more normal level that they can't have if you, the player, are not controlling them.
Wow, that is some dumb shit.
Yeah. Which, again, fighting game story circa 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
par for the course. But after just, again, having just finished Injustice 2 about a month or two ago,
Yeah.
just feels like, oh my God, what are we doing? And the story plays out the way it plays out is it plays through maps.
Yeah.
So instead of going through cutscene after cutscene, you've got a map, and on that map there might be 4 or 5 fights and then a boss fight.
Yeah.
And you might have to go through 1 or 2 to get there, and you can do the other optional ones, and then your character levels up and you gain more health or more power or whatever as you level up and fight characters. But again, the basic story of this is that there are a bunch of clones of all of the Z fighters and the villains, and you basically end up fighting clone Piccolo and clone Goku like 3 times per map, and it just drags it out in this very slow pace where you're like, okay, to get to the next story event, I've got to win these 4 fights, and I've got to fight through those. Okay, now I get my boss fight. I get my 2-minute cutscene, new map, do my 5 fights, most of which are, again, against the same people.
Yeah.
My boss fight, which is normally something better, where it's like, okay, Android 21 showed up and you're doing your typical Dragon Ball Z, I'm more powerful than you, but you seem like you've been training harder, so maybe you're not as powerful as your typical Dragon Ball Z stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But then you just go through like another 4 fights of these clone fighters to get there, which there's some RPG elements of it that kind of are cool. Like as you beat them, each one gives you like unlocks a certain buff or something. So it might be a higher attack level or whatever. But again, it's just one of those things where after playing it for so long, you're just like, okay, I get it. I'm going to fight Clone Piccolo 6 more times. Can we just do this fight and move on? And you do unlock more fighters. So you start with just Goku, and then you get a couple more as you go through. You like rescue them, and then they join your team, and you can now share your spirit with them and link together as you go through. And then there's a couple different arcs for it. So the first one you play is Goku, and then Frieza, and you kind of unlock these characters over and over again. But again, it's just it gets very repetitive, and it's one of those things that I think if it was only 4 or 5 hours long, I think would be great, but it's much longer just to try and go through all the optional battles and really level up your character. It takes a while.
I was thinking that's like you kind of kept mentioning Injustice 2. I realized like Dragon Ball Z feels like the one game that probably really could have done an Injustice 2 like story, more so than, because of the IP. But I guess since it didn't, I guess what you're kind of, because I think Injustice 2 changed a lot for games in general. Do you feel like if they can't do Injustice 2, would you rather just have them, you play as these one character at a time and go through the story, and then you won the tournament, and like you have all these like non-canon endings and the one canon ending, or would you like them to at least try to do something weird?
I like the trying. Like as much as I don't like Marvel vs. Capcom, I don't even know if I ever bothered doing a review of that one.
Yeah.
I like that there was at least an effort put in, because it's at least like, okay, there's an entertaining reason why I'm fighting these. And I never minded like the play through this game 30 times to get your 30 weird endings, where one is like, I don't know, I always go back to Tekken, where it's like you got like the kangaroo ending, where you're like, okay, what the hell is this?
Dude, Tekken has the best endings.
Exactly. And you've got your one ending that's like the corporation doing whatever and whatever. And that's the one I'm supposed to see. What was that panda doing again? And I always kind of like those, and I think Dragon Ball Z would be a fun one to mess around with that. I think, and this is what I was thinking as I was playing this, even if you just did the story that they have here, which is rough.
Yeah.
I think if you just did that more in that style of, okay, you played as Goku for a couple times, and now Goku's rescued Krillin and Yamcha, and you're doing a couple things as them, and now, okay, now you're tagging along with Frieza, and Frieza joins up with Captain Ginyu, and you're doing. I think it would have worked better in my mind. It wouldn't be as different, which is what I think the story mode was trying to do, is going, okay, we're not going to do an Injustice 2, we're going to make this more of a mini game type of thing, we're going to add these RPG elements, which again is cool. It's just it feels dated compared to where fighting games are now.
Yeah. Where Injustice 2 is now. I don't know if any other fighting game's done it yet.
Marvel vs. Capcom tried and failed. I'm curious. I never got around to Tekken 7, but I know that was supposedly had a good one in it too.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about Tekken 7. I heard it still wasn't Injustice 2, but it was getting there. Everybody's like still like a decade behind, but they're trying.
Yeah.
So I guess any closing thoughts besides, I mean, we kind of started like negative, so I guess we'll end positive. What's your sort of like final thoughts on?
We started negative?
I don't know. The whole story mode, you're like, it's okay.
Yeah, we started positive with it's great, and then got to the mediocre. It never gets bad. There's nothing in this that I would say is bad. even just running around the lobby, seeing the different stuff, and it's entertaining if nothing else. And I think honestly, it's just if you have any interest in Dragon Ball, it's a ton of fun just to see these characters. And again, the interactions are so perfect. Even just the little things like, okay, I'm Goku fighting Frieza. They have their little interaction that's similar to what you would see in the show, and you have Goku fighting Gohan, and there's conversations like, "Oh, come on, son! Like you can do better." You just have these like little voice quips in between that I think that adds a lot of detail, and I think it's just a great game that whether you're interested in fighting games and you just want something kind of fun to mess around with, if you're interested in Dragon Ball, I think it serves the IP very, very well.
Cool. Dang it. One day, this will definitely be when it's on sale game for me.
When it's on sale and it's version like the final cut or whatever.
Oh God. Oh man. Be prepared. Guilty Gear devs. There's gonna be like 5 of those games.
Oh yes.
All right. So we are Workforce Gaming. If you guys like what you heard, you can always follow us on YouTube. Oh, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. We'll see you guys next week.